There you go, Harold. You hear me?
I can hear you, Dan. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm so happy you have time to do this. As a matter of fact, because just trying to get you on the phone today was like, I got 5 minutes, Dan. I'll talk to you, and then goodbye.
We did it in 4.5, and it was perfect. So let's keep up that precision.
Again, thank you very much for doing this, huh?
Thank you for asking me, Dan.
Okay, well, let's see. Let's in the comments. I always keep forgetting the comments. I'm going to call out some of these people. Sean O'Keefe, Mark Trowbridge, Robert Roberts. What's your first name, Robert? Nathaniel Robinson, Ian Schofield, Mo. Robert Roberts again. Okay, I'm rereading this. All right, Don River and Bobby Factor.
Bobby Factor, also known as Robert Factor.
Bobby, you gotta. I asked you something. You gotta do it for me, please, huh? Bobby's got a great voice, by the way. All right, Harold. You know what, Harold? Let's start with a question. How's that?
That was a great idea. And by the way, in order to coax people to come, because once again, as I told you, I'm not Mark Herman and I'm not Loco. So in order to get somebody to come and comment, I had to coax them with the offer of a tank duel. So, and I am the designer emeritus of Tank Duel. Started it and then passed it to Mike Verticelli. But I get my games. So I have a bunch of games, and I'm going to give one of them away to the best question that's asked in the comments and that you, Dan Picaldi, reads. And you and I will decide what the best is.
Okay.
But wait, Dan, there's more. Roger McGowan agreed to give 2 shirts from GMT East, which isn't occurring because of the events of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But he's going to give 2 shirts to 2 people in the comment section at random.
At random.
You have to select them at random. I'm not going to do that.
And you know what? Not to look cheap on my part, I'll be giving Yeah Magazine away. How's that? Eh?
Very nice.
And you know what, Harold? Can you see the people on the comments?
I can't, but I created a cheat sheet on another screen that has the YouTube feed.
Okay, because I was going to say you picked the winner for this guy, but anyways, it doesn't matter.
All right.
So let's start with a question. First of all, Harold, why interviews? What led you? Like, what possessed you to do interviews? How did it start? What's the matter with you? And how long will it keep going on?
Yeah, the what's the matter with me is the question. Excuse me. I love the podcast thing. I've been listening to them for a number of years, and I think it's cool. I love gadgets, so I thought it would be cool to figure out how to do them. This American Life, Radio Lab, those highly produced podcasts are the ones that I really enjoy, and I admire those people. They're so good on the radio, and they're so good with creating a nice, highly produced, stylistic form of radio show. And so as I wander around the industry, I get access for whatever reason to a lot of very interesting people. And I love to hear, I just love the conversations, and nothing that I add and everything that they add to that conversation to me is magical. And I'd have these conversations all the time where I'd say, I wish I could share that. I wish that was recorded. So now with the podcast, I have the ability to talk to people and record them and share it with everybody. And the magic to my podcast, if there's magic, and if anybody listens, they listen because of the guests. I don't add anything. The beauty is there's so many interesting people, Mark Herman, Volko Runka, this past week, Mark, Trevor Just, Jason Carr, Bruce Garrick, Jason Matthews, what a great lineup of content. And I'm enjoying producing those.
Yeah, and I know what you mean by let them talk type thing, because it's like, just right now I just want you to talk, because you got stories, man. You got CIA stories, you got DEFCON 2 stories, man. You know what I'm saying?
Dan, there's a lot of stuff I can't talk about, so let's just leave it at that.
Okay. And you said now when you do your podcast, by the way, I really enjoy your podcast and I learn a lot. I learn a lot from you. Is there a time factor that you want to do it in between, or you just want to let it go?
Yeah, first thing I try to do is to let the people I interview talk, to your point, right? That that Mark Herman's beautiful because Mark Herman talks about stuff that's interesting to him, and all of us want to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing is true for Volko and Brian Train and Jason Matthews. Was the first time I'd interviewed him the other night was a treat. But I just, let them talk is the first thing that I try to do. The second thing I try to do with time is that I think there's a digestible bite. I think an hour is as much as people really want and can take. If it's something they really love, they'll listen at different time frames. But an hour is as much as I want to go. And these newest podcasts, this little 5-packs I've been putting together, I've been trying to do in around 25 to 45 minutes in 30-minute time frames roughly. And those have been, I think, really nice digestible bites. But a lot of people will give you feedback that they listen to these in the car, in public transit. And, I think 30 minutes is a nice bite.
I listen to them because I have an old Corolla that doesn't have Bluetooth and whatever. So I actually listen to them when, I'll go to bed early to listen to one of your podcasts. Same thing with Bruce's podcasts. He doesn't put out enough podcasts as far as I'm concerned, but I think he's a busy guy.
He doesn't put out enough, although I won't listen to him when I go to bed because he gives me the creeps and I can't sleep.
I'm sure you heard the last podcast he did, right?
Yes.
Where he said the bad word.
Yes.
I didn't think he had it in him.
He absolutely has it in him.
Ooh. Well, all right.
But decorum precludes him from using that, right? And I think that you generally when you project, you don't use those words because first of all, there's no telling who's listening, and we want everybody to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
With having their kids in the room or their wives or whatever,
that's right,
or husbands or spouse, whatever. But the other reason is we have bigger vocabularies than that, right? And so there's really no reason to blast that stuff out.
Yeah, maybe you have a bigger vocabulary, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let me know. I'll help you with some words.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, you know what? Let me take a question from our guests here. And someone just said an Italian bad word, but he doesn't know how to pronounce it or spell it.
There's Loco Runka. I see Volko.
Yeah, Volko.
And then Brooklyn Wargaming is Kimber Van Rye.
How
He's
about
coming up on Tuesday in the next podcast.
Would you know this question? Will Harold ship the shirts to Canada?
Absolutely.
You will? Good. Okay.
Yeah, I've done these sorts of things before and had to ship them to the other side of the world. So I think we can get through the snow in Canada. The only qualification on shipping is that you may have to wait until the world settles down a little bit. I'm not willing to go to the post office, to be frank.
So you know what why did they call you the professor? Someone calls you the professor.
Yeah. So in real life, I'm a professor, right? I retired about 4 years ago, sold a business, and now I'm a professor at University of California, San Diego, at the business school. And so I teach classes in finance, and I say finance instead of finance because I am a professor. And I teach ethics classes and undergrads and grads. If you're an undergrad and you have a business major or minor at UC San Diego, you're going to go through my Finance 181 class.
So you teach what? Business ethics?
Business ethics, yes.
Well, there's no ethics in business.
That's part of what we're trying to change, Dan.
I understand. And do you think in your lifetime it will change?
I think that the young people amaze me. There are a lot of things that are changing. There's sensitivity not only to ethics and things like that, but the environment.
Yeah.
All of the different constituencies in companies and addressing to those. So absolutely things are changing.
This was going to be one of my questions, but I'll let Patrick Garrett.
Hello, Patrick.
Do you want me to read it out to Harold? Do you want to? I'll read it out because I guess everybody can see. Harold, you're building a pretty solid body of podcast work. Of that work, what do you consider your top 5? Great question.
That is a good question. And Patrick, thanks for recognizing my solid body. I've been working on it night and day. So podcasts, there are a handful of terrific interviews that I've done. And the standouts if I had to make a top 5, and there's so many, there's nuggets in every one of them, and they're all different. But Volko is fantastic, and I say that first because I know he's listening because he was on the live feed. Mark Herman, of course, both of those podcasts are fantastic. Ananda Gupta is one of the fathers with Jason Matthews of Twilight Struggle. Man, is he bright, and has he thought about this game stuff? I mean, Volko is in the same category and Mark, but Ananda Gupta has a clarity of thought, communication related to how these games work that's extraordinary. And I actually have a podcast in my recorder that I haven't produced yet that's a long form with Ananda, and he is something special. I'd love to talk to him. And actually, I've already recorded one with him that I published about a year ago. But my favorite guy to interview, I'll tell you, to be honest, and this is maybe a top 4 list instead of 5, but it's Brian Train. Brian Train, first of all, he's Canadian, Dan. You'll be very proud. He is the funniest guy, the driest guy. I've got 3 podcast segments already recorded with him. I just recorded another one with him for the 5-packs. And he is the most amusing guy I think I've ever sat and talked to. He's delightful. And at the same time, has the technical sophistication to teach us all something in every game he talks about. And he's got a new P500 game up. I can't remember the name, but it's China before World War II. Maybe after World War II in the expulsion of the Japanese.
Is it actually up on the P500?
It's on P500. He's got over 1,000 orders, Dan.
Okay, I must have. I seen it, but yeah.
Bobby Factor also points out that Brian Train is the inventor of the Pantzuka. And for those that don't know about it, you have to listen to the second podcast. But here's the quick story. Brian likes to go to Burning Man, or used to go to Burning Man. And he tells me this story once over dinner about him taking Joe Miranda to Burning Man. Now, if you know anything about Burning Man, you would never expect to see Joe Miranda nor Brian Train at Burning Man, right? It's a place where they do a lot of things there, including there's an open environment with regard to art and communication. Clothing is optional, and there's other stuff that we won't talk about. So I didn't think about those two going to Burning Man, so that cracked me up to start with. And then Brian started telling the story of the Pantzuka. And one of the things that happens at Burning Man, because it's in the desert, is that, I guess it's because it's in the desert, and probably because other things go on, there are men that walk around with shirts, T-shirts on, but nothing below the T-shirt. Maybe shoes, but no pants, no shorts, no underwear, no nothing.
Okay.
And they call them ducks, right? They call them Donald Ducks because they wear shirts and no pants. So Brian Train, over the course of several Burning Mans, created something called the Pantzuka, which fires balls of underwear at these people. And there are some, and on my website, conflictsimulations.com, sorry to plug that, Dan, but on Conflict Simulations, I've got a picture of Dan and another guy manning a Pantzuka firing a ball of underwear at a duck. And it's the funniest thing you've ever seen. I space out the butt so you don't have to see the man's butt, but he's nude from the waist down.
And by the way, you can plug anything you want, Harold. I mean, you're the man. You're the king of interview. You know what I'm saying? It's like me interviewing Larry King. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not that old, Dan.
That's not what I meant.
Oh, okay.
Okay, do we have another question? La, 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 la. You know what? I'll ask a question since it's my show, huh?
Yes.
Harold, you told me you're a professional investor. Okay, was that the business you sold? And do you have any tips, or do I have to pay you for these tips?
Yeah, yes, I sold a hedge fund. That's a partner and I owned a hedge fund. So we sold the investments and all the people in the infrastructure associated with the hedge fund about 4 years ago. And but we invested in some pretty esoteric stuff. We didn't invest in stocks and stuff like that. Structured financial products, pollution credits, all kinds of weird markets, which is something I have a history in. But that's a different interview. So here's the thing about interviewing or about investing right now that I'll say, Dan. First of all, You dollar cost average, you put a little bit of money in over a long period of time, and you just keep doing it disciplined way. Markets in the U.S. have gone up for 100 years. They're going to continue to go up. We're going to have hiccups like we do today. Don't ever panic. Stay in the markets. Invest in index funds, right, with low expense ratios. I'm giving you a whole bunch of buzzwords now.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Exactly. I'm trying to blow you away. So invest in indexes that are highly diversified. Keep doing it. Stay in it. Invest even today, right, when things are in a crisis, because in 5 or 10 years now, I think we'll look back and see this as the investment opportunity of our lifetime.
I know. I know.
But it's hard. It's hard, and it's chaos, right?
I cut down my hedge fund into my backyard. Yeah. You know what? And okay, this San Diego Historicon here. First of all, San Diego, isn't this like a hippie world? And why would they play war games? And why would you want to give yourself the hassle of starting a con like that?
Yeah, it's been fun. I like getting a bunch of people together to play games. What we've done over the last 5 or 6 years actively in San Diego is pulled together a bunch of people that already played war games and got them to network and play with each other. And so, it's our community's grown. It hasn't grown because people are new to it. It's just grown because we now know each other. And that's awesome. And the HISCON is a piece of that. The HISCON will be a little bit of a challenge this year. I'm trying to make a decision of, do I want to take on $10,000 of risk that everybody can fly into San Diego in November? Now, it's a long way off, but I'm going to have to make some tough decisions here in the next couple of months because of some of the chaos. And the issue is that, I'm in it for $10,000, whether people come or not. And I'm not really sure that that's a good bet to make sitting where I sit right now on March 29th.
That's 10 G's US, is that right?
American, yes, 10 G's American.
That's like $100,000 Canadian.
10 large.
Yeah. Let's see. Do we have any? Volko is pestering us. He's trolling us.
See you later, Kimber. Kimber has to go eat.
And what's Haroldon? That's your Elvish name?
Haroldon, yes. Yes, it is.
Now, okay, that leads me to a question.
Volko is very intolerant of my typographical errors.
Okay, that's some inside stuff. I think I get it.
It's a liberal arts education. That's why I.
But you know what? Elves. Do you play RPGs?
I love to play RPGs. I don't really have a group here. We play Elric. We play that a little bit here. Some guys run a group. I play Dungeons and Dragons with my nephews whenever I get back to Texas to play with them. I love RPGs, but we just haven't formalized a group here, or I haven't joined a group.
What about like a World War II RPG or something like that, or Modern War? Why hasn't that happened?
There are some cool ones, right? There's one called it's called Rebellion, something like that. It was kickstarted about a year ago. It's really kind of cool. But anywhere where there's where rebels are trying to change the world, whether it's the IRA or it's the American Revolution or any of Volko's games fit, right? Where you have people and you play the roles of these people. I've been trying to set something up like that. Kimber Van Rye and his buddy have set up a role-playing game that's set in the years in Canada right before the French and Indian War. At least that's what we call it.
But that's 17-something, right?
16-something, yes.
Yeah.
16, 17, whatever it takes, Dan.
Yeah. One of those days.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff out there. You just got to find the right thing and somebody that's willing to run it. I would love to run a big D&D group. I love 5th edition, but I'm sucked into so many things.
Yeah.
That I have to say no at some point, right?
Did you just look at the time? I just saw you you're cocking your head up. Did you just look at the time?
Here's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the comments, the questions. The people want to ask questions because they want to win Tank Duel, Dan.
Okay, I thought you were looking at the time like you had enough or something, because I got questions, Harold.
I'm here for you, brother.
Now, I'm bouncing around, okay, from question to question. Now,
how about this one? You're going to read the one from Mark Trowbridge?
Hold on a second here. Where is he?
It's Vietnam Veterans Day in the U.S. I didn't know that, Mark. Thanks for sharing that. Do either of us have a favorite Vietnam game and why? Well, I'll answer first, Dan, and then you can respond. Vietnam, let me think about this for a minute. I sure like, I like the original Victory Games Vietnam. That's the one that I've played the most, I think. And mainly scenarios. I'm envious of people that have played that at length. But someday, after I retire or after I retire again, I hope to get that on the table and play it out. How about you, Dan? What's your favorite Vietnam game?
You know what? Vietnam for me is a bit of a I don't know. It scares me. It intimidates me very much because it's when I was younger, I saw this happening live, right? And because there was a lot of color film on it, it just seemed more real than the World War II stuff that's non-colorized. So I get anxious when I play a Vietnam game because I really get into a game. When I get into a game, I really do, and I try to put myself in the soldier's head. And I don't know, man, it freaks me out. So I don't have a favorite Vietnam game.
Well, can I give you a favorite if you don't mind?
Go ahead.
At WBC last year, you played Fire in the Lake and Fall of Saigon, which I think you enjoyed very much.
Yes, I did. I don't remember much of it, but I did.
So there you go.
But I was thinking more a tactical game. Not, I haven't played. That's the only coin game I've played, and I was sitting next. Mark Herman was my partner, and basically he was just leading. So I was just looking at what's going on. So it was a playthrough happening before my eyes.
Right.
So I'd have to play that game another 10 times to really get the feel for that.
True.
And I mean, I don't think that's the easiest coin game. Is it?
They're all challenging in their own right. It's people ask me all the time, which coin game do you start with?
Yeah.
And, some people say one game's easier than the other, Cuba Libre, for example, just because the map's smaller. But the reality is they're all tough. I think the one you should start with is the one you're most interested in at the time, yes. the time period.
And I'm thinking this coin mechanic, this coin system, it's never going to end because there's so many subjects, so many you can emulate for the rest of your life. Problems that happen in Venezuela, problems that are going to happen in Argentina, problems that are going to happen in China. So,
yeah, but here's the thing. Here's why coin has exploded. First of all, it's an interesting system, right? We all enjoy the system, or at least those of us that play it. But secondly, Volco has done something magical in cultivating people that are willing to spend their time designing another coin game. And it's all falls on Volco's shoulders. You don't see this with many other systems, maybe Advanced Squad Leader or OCS or SCS, those sorts of systems, but very rarely do you see a system that's so prolific in creating follow-ons by people that aren't the designer.
Mm-hmm.
And that credit all goes to Volco.
Now, you were talking about Anata Gupta before and how brilliant this guy is. It's funny, before I started to meet people like you, people like Volco, Mark, and many, many designers, I thought they were going to be, I thought all these guys are little geniuses in themselves, okay? Because a guy like Volco, how do you create a system like that? Obviously, he's got training in what he'd done before that helped him, but how do you put it together? How do you, and the thing is, I thought these guys were all going to be weirdos, but they're not.
You don't think they're weirdos?
Well, weirdos. What did they think about me? Bloody hell. You know what I'm saying? But, like Mark Herman, it's like, I meet the guy. The guy's a generous, super guy. Even you, Harold. You're looking at the time? Are you looking at the time?
No, I'm looking at another question. We got a question from Trevor Just.
Okay, hold on. I'm not finished talking. Okay, let's talk about Trevor Just.
Well, Trevor Just has a question. These people want to win a tank duel. Nathaniel Robinson wants to win it. He already has a tank duel. He just wants to ask a question.
Okay, so is this the question?
Well, Trevor Just said, which podcast do you listen to, right? And what inspired me that inspired me to start? I think David Doctor's podcast, right? Guns, Dice, and Butter. I don't know what that means, Guns, Dice, and Butter, but I think it's funny. But his podcast was great. And he would...
These guys haven't been on for years.
He hasn't. Now, they're available still. You can still listen to them. And they're worthwhile because there's a lot of Mark Herman. There's a lot of Brian Train. There's a lot of Loco. There's some... there's a bunch of guys that are important to the hobby that David did a nice job of getting them on and interviewing them and letting them talk about what they're doing. And so that I admire that. I've actually tried to get David. I'm begging David once a month to get him on the podcast, and he keeps saying he'll do it. And I look forward to interviewing him because what he did had such a big influence. The other things, This American Life has nothing to do with war games. That had a big influence. Radio Lab has nothing to do with war games, but had a big influence on me. So,
Harold, question just like that. If you were to go back in time, who is the person you'd want to most meet? One person. One.
Yeah, George Washington.
George Washington.
Next question.
Lincoln?
What's that?
Over Abraham Lincoln?
Oh, yeah. Abraham Lincoln would be a podunk wood chopper if it weren't for George Washington. And props to Abraham Lincoln, right? Did amazing things. I would enjoy meeting him as well. But Washington, wow.
Now, Washington,
he was the father of our country, Dan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Washington, he was an insurgent, huh?
Yeah. Well, he started off. He wanted to fight for the British. Wanted to be a British officer, and they wouldn't let him. Imagine if they had let him fight for the British.
No USA, man.
Yeah. No, he spent the entire French-Indian War trying to be a British officer, and they wouldn't allow it.
Really, eh? I don't know his history.
His resume is terrible. His French and Indian War is catastrophe after catastrophe. But once that American Revolution started, he was something special.
Okay, here we go with Trevor Just again. I mean, this guy's just pumping them out. You know what I mean?
No, put them up on the screen. You put them up on the screen. He didn't do it.
On the screen.
Okay, all right.
Sends me a bit of cash once in a while, so that's why he's whatever. But Trevor, here's this question. Harold, if you could design a game with any designer, who would it be, and what's the subject?
Yeah. No, I like hanging out with Volko and Mark Herman and Ananda Gupta, Jason Matthews, Brian Train. All those people are just brilliant, and I just hope a little bit of their brilliance rubs off. So I'm actually working on something with Mark Herman that we can't talk about, that he slips and talks about sometimes, right? He and I in private, we can't tell anybody, and then every now and then he'll tell somebody. But we're working on something, and that will be a treat because he has a view and I have a view, and we're trying to fit it into a game. And it's going to take a while, but it's very exciting, and I love just being around those guys and working with them.
Now, when you're with it, like when you're with Mark, and he's got a way of doing something, he's got an idea of how this should work, and you have an idea of how whatever should work. So how do you come to an agreement? Because I'm sure.
Don't you think he gets 2 votes to my 1? I mean, what am I? Look, Mark, my experience and judgment tell me that you're wrong.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So we play roles, and I think that's true of any collaboration. If you try to do the exact same thing, you're just going to butt heads. So I spend a lot of time on researching and building and structuring around the framework that he creates. So
basically, but is he open to your ideas, or you're just there for?
He's awesome
for the beer.
No, he's awesome, and he's absolutely open to my ideas. And even though Volko didn't, author Liberty or Death, he was heavily involved. And so there's a little bit of him in that game, and he was fantastic. And it was a wonderful collaboration. And he's collaborative in a different way. Volko will ask you, using a Socratic method, 2 or 3 questions about something you're doing, and you realize that he's calling you an idiot, but he's just kind enough not to do it to your face. So So, Volko's wonderful and has a nice method, and that was great. I enjoyed that. But yeah, I'm excited about working with Mark on some of this stuff. Here's Nathaniel Robinson again with a question.
Yeah, what do you think are important questions when trying to interview a designer about a game?
I want to know what they think about the mechanisms and what's new and interesting about a design. And so I don't try to tell them what I think is interesting, because nobody gives a much care about what I think. But see, like those words, Dan, right? I use my rest of my vocabulary.
Very good. I'm learning.
But if I can ask Mark or Volko or Ananda or Brian Train or John Butterfield or Morgan Guillaume-Roté what they think is interesting about, or a new mechanism, or what they're excited about a new design, and hear it in their words, then that gives me a different perspective on
it. Yeah, for sure. And do you think these guys, do most of these war game designers, Volko, Mark, yourself, do you guys play a lot of Euros?
Well, I do. I make an effort, a systematic effort, to play other people's games. And I'm watching for somebody that says this is a unique game or this is interesting. And I'm always trying to do something, trying to play a game that will shake my thinking. And so absolutely, it's important. And once again, Dan, I hate this debate about what's a Euro and what's a war game.
Okay.
That drives me batty. We waste so much energy on that.
Okay, can we elaborate a little bit on that, Harold? I'm curious.
Yeah, I'll give you just a little bit on it, but here's the short story. I don't care what's a war game and what's not. And most of the time when somebody's arguing something is not a war game, they're just trying to exclude it from the universe of possible games that they play. They're saying, well, I play these games and you don't play my types of games. And it's just, I can't stand it, Dan. I think it's a discussion that we have as war gamers that really divides us and excludes people that want to play games with us. So I don't care. Frankly, you can play whatever you want, and I respect it, and I'm all for it. And I don't care if a game is or isn't a war game. This debate about Twilight Struggle or Undaunted Normandy, is that a war game or not? Who cares? These are innovations. These are really cool new things. And maybe it's not something you want to play, but don't argue it's not a war game because you don't want to play it. It's a separationist argument.
Now, why do you have those feelings? Have you seen many people do this live, like in front of you? And who would do that? Like I'm like you. A game's a game. You like it, you play it. You don't like it, you don't play it. That's it. What's to argue about a game?
I think it happens all the time around us, Dan.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you how I feel, right? People can do whatever they want. I don't have any say over what people do.
No.
But I can tell everybody what I think.
Well, here we got
first. Yeah, look at Volko's stirring the pot again, right?
Yeah, he's got a serious question: is liberty or death a war game?
First of all, let me say, Volko, you've been disqualified from winning liberty or death. Okay, just for the record, it's not going to happen.
So,
and if you keep asking these rude questions, Dan will boot your butt from the right. You can boot him.
Well, he's a vegetarian. I think he's very strong. He's been watching some Arnie Schwarzenegger movies, and he's forcing me. You know, to tell me, watch this. You don't know nothing. Whatever. You know.
He says you don't know nothing all the time. I hear him say that. First of all, Volko, yes, it's a war game because everything's a war game, right? I'm not going to argue about it. Jason Matthews in the podcast that we did on Friday with him, right? It's the last one. It's number 5 from the 5 packs. He said that he remembers in his youth when we were just started playing role-playing games that everybody would argue it's either a role-playing game or it's a war game. That it didn't matter what the game. If it was a board game, it was a war game. And so the dichotomy was between role-playing games and everything else. And then we start parsing out, well, that's a Euro game, and so let's separate that. You play those, I don't play those. And we end up in this very odd narrative. And, taxonomy is something as human beings where we do all the time. And so there's a very natural inclination to define that and fight for the definition. And, Volko's academic enough to define to us what he thinks is a war game. It isn't. Maybe he won't. But in the end, if we define it with the intention of telling other people they don't do the cool stuff that we do, then I think you're just being a jerk.
Yeah, and well, I've only been to one con, and it's WBC, and I really enjoyed it. Enjoying meeting a lot of people. And there was a room upstairs where it was the serious room, like the chess room, like you walk in, you better hold your breath. Don't
Right.
make a noise. And I asked one guy if I could take a picture, because I want to show it on my show type thing. And he looked at me like I was a weirdo. And he said, "For what?" And so are these the kind of people you're talking about?
Well, there are tons of people that don't like to have their picture taken over games.
I didn't want to take this ugly picture. I wanted to take a picture of the board.
I run into that as well. If you listen to my interview with Stuka Joe, he talks about that problem as well. But I think that the courteous thing for us to do is ask, right? And you asked.
Absolutely.
And if he says no, we just got to move on, right? But I guess I don't link that with the war game thing. So Volko's comment here, as always, is dead on, and he's trying to recover. He's still not going to get a copy of Tank Duel, but at the last SD-HisCon, he played Mark Herman's game about Versailles Peace Conference, right? So he says a historical simulation is broader than a war game. That's fair. I like the word conflict simulation, right? Which can include all sorts of things
Absolutely.
that aren't kinetic war. It doesn't have to be kinetic war to be in our universe of games.
Now, when you said conflict, it made me think of this game by Z-Man Games, Robinson Crusoe, and I keep bringing that up. Have you played that game?
I haven't. It's in shrink in my closet. I can see it from where it's
that deadly game. You're going to lose. You're going to die. You think D-Day at Omaha Beach, you're going to die? You're going to die.
Yeah.
It's a cooperative game. You got to make choices, and when someone, anyways, you're going to die. You're going to love it. It's great. Okay, let me ask you another question here, Harold. Okay. Let me see here. I'm having a hard time reading. Oh, yeah. Your podcast that you put out. And I think I might have figured it out today. Why 5-pack podcast? I mean, do you go out and buy 5-pack of beer? I mean, I don't understand 5. Why 5?
Yeah. Well, I love it when I do something that's different and makes you react that visceral way. I mean, because look, first of all, I'm not a marketing genius, but I love to go counter from the trend and the expectation. So there are tons of people out there saying, why a 5-pack? I love it, right? At least they're talking about me, right? And you could be saying he's fat and he's got a beard, which is accurate, but the 5-pack is funny.
And man, that's a lot of work. I don't know when you started to put this 5-pack together, but you got another one happening next week. Do you have another one the week after that?
Yes, I think I've got enough for 4 weeks. So in 7 days, I recorded 20 podcasts. So and the way I did it, Dan, was kind of interesting. I had to throw out my biases as to how to record them. So instead of music at the beginning and music at the end and my introduction and all this stuff, which takes me so long, I mean, I've got some really good podcasts recorded that I haven't produced yet. Really? I just said, I'm going to call these people. I'm going to tell them what we're talking about. And we're going to go for about 30 minutes and I'm going to stop and I'm going to record a brief introduction about who it is. And then just boom, boom, boom. And so I can do, 3 or 4 of those a day and be finished. And I don't have to produce and edit and all this terrible stuff that takes so long.
So it's not necessarily live interviews that you do face to face. They's are they're
all on Skype.
They're all on Skype, eh?
Yeah.
And about the music, I'm glad you said the music. Where do you get your music, by the way?
By the way, are you going to comment on it? Do you like it?
By the way, just came out of my mouth like that. It didn't mean anything. Like, where did you get your music?
All right, I didn't know if I should be offended or not, but I won't be.
Maybe you will later. Don't worry.
So I like unique, interesting music by bands that haven't been contracted yet, right? So so what I do is I just kind of network to find those. When I first started the podcast, I called a friend with an indie band and I said, "How do I do this? I don't want to use music that has intellectual property rights. I don't want to violate those." Because I would hate for somebody to take down all my podcasts, right? That would suck. So what I did was I called my buddy and he said, well, look, why don't you call indie bands and ask them if you can use some of their music? And he happened to be in an indie band, and the first music I used was from his band. And these guys all have recordings, and they would love to have them promoted a little bit, even if it's to, if it's to guys like you and me. So I've met a lot of very interesting people this way. Listen to a lot of fun music, and I enjoy it, but that takes up a lot of time too, right? So that was another thing I cut out of my little 5-pack series. The other thing about 5-pack, Dan, is I wanted to release them Monday through Friday, and they're 5 days in a week. So that's where the 5 came from.
Oh, because I just saw something on the net today. Do the 5 things because of coronavirus. I thought maybe there was a connection to that. So
right.
And
so no, there's not. I try to avoid the issues of the day. So I see a question from Robert Carroll. Can I use that?
This one here?
What's your favorite or most memorable moment from one of your interviews so far, and why? The first podcast I did, I knew Volko was working on a game called Nevsky, and he had told me what it was about. And this is an era that I have no experience in. I don't do anything medieval or ancients. I don't read much on it. I don't play games on it. So I don't know anything about it. So I spent, 10 minutes doing some internet research on Nevsky and the movie and what it covered. And so then I called Volko. And if you listen to the podcast, he talks about it. And he's just wonderful about how organized and complete he is in the analysis. But at one point, I asked him a question about, well, at this time, didn't this and this and this? And he said, and Volko's response was, well, no. So at that point, I realized I'd brought a knife to a taser fight, right, or a gun fight, that I was outmatched, and I shouldn't pretend to be who I'm not and debate Nevsky history with Volko Runka. That's just silly. So that left a mark on me, and Volko was very kind. He usually is, but that was one of my favorite moments as I think back that changed the way I do stuff now.
Kabuki Kid asks, what question have you never been asked that you wish you'd be asked of you?
Oh, interesting. Man, yeah. If I answer that, I'll bowl up in some time warp. I don't know. Dan, you've never asked me why I'm so handsome.
Well, I mean,
and I've never been interestingly enough, never been asked that.
Hold on a second. Let's get back let's go back a few minutes, okay? When I said, hey, Harold, where do you get your music? Harold, I'm a composer, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. You know that? Oh, okay. Harold, that piece of music at the beginning of my podcast here, do you know what the name of that piece is?
Ode to Harold.
No, it's called Here's Harold.
Is it really?
I promise you, and it was written with you in mind.
How sweet.
You're damn right. So you see how handsome I think you are?
Well, why would you call that Here's Harold?
Because I don't know. Firstly, I was writing it for your podcast, but you never, whatever, what can I say? But that's what came to my mind because your voice is sweet. The way your podcast sounds, there's a sound to your podcast. I don't know what mics you use, but it's a very nice, warm sound. I really enjoy that. And that's the music that came. That's the inspiration I got. I got really soft jazz, walking bass and doom, 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 doom. Things move on,
I love it. No, I assume that everything that's on your show is your work.
Yes.
And you're very talented. I'm very impressed.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, and the reason why I did actually was Stuka Joe, who said, Dan, you got so much music. Why don't you start something, put it out there? You know, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, great. Very nice.
And I didn't want to have the problem with copywritten music. So I'd rather compose it myself. So no, I don't have any strikes on YouTube, because 3 strikes on YouTube, they shut off your channel, man.
Right.
All right. Okay. Let me see here. You know, Harold, I did some research. You designed more than 4 games, man.
No, and I've really designed 3. I mean, Tank Duel I started, but Mike finished.
And Tank Duel, will you be playing Tank Duel at any cons in the future?
I played it for 16 hours straight at the Dice Tower West. So I'm happy to play it.
Now,
played with Tom Vassell, played with his partner.
Yeah. I remember I asked, I forget who I asked, but can we play more than 8 people?
Well, the game's set at 8, and you have a challenge with the deck when you grow beyond 8. So I've seen people play more than 8 people, and what they do is they bring in multiple games.
Right.
And they'll play in pods, but you can shoot at anybody you want.
I'm really curious to play that game with a large bunch of people. It's not each man for his own, there, right?
Well, you could play it that way, right? In a video game mode. You could play. I mean, but really, it's best to play on sides. And Mike's got some good scenarios that are set up where you fight for a hill and stuff like that, and those are kind of fun. So those are good. We played one scenario where it was 3 Shermans against a Tiger, and that was a blast. And the Shermans just get shredded at some point, but eventually you get a chance to take the Tiger out. It's great. But yeah, it's a group. And frankly, in my view, and I don't mean to diminish it at all, but it's the way it was when I started it. But it's a fun party game.
Yep.
And you sit and you yell at each other and you laugh and you take a shot and you survive, but you're on fire and you're trying to put the fire out and everybody's laughing at you. And you're some guy's trucking across the battlefield trying to get to the hill and you throw some mud in front of him and he gets stuck. It's a hilarious, fun game.
I love that.
It came out of my love for the game Tobruk. Do you remember the game Tobruk, Avalon Hill?
Yeah.
Where you've got incredible detail in the resolution of fire combat, but then you've got no terrain on the map, so it's all about the fire combat.
Yeah,
and rolling the dice for every shot, and it's crazy. And then the game up front, and if you mix those 2 together, that's where you end up with Tank Duel. We need to take more questions from the people, Dan. It's the people that keep you and me in business. We need to take more questions.
You're right. Bobby Factor, are there any more interviews of game store owners?
Let's see. I interviewed a guy that runs a game store nearby here in San Diego, and that was a great interview. I enjoyed it. And he was very frank and a very interesting perspective on what it's like to run a game store now. And then I interviewed another game store when I was in Texas with my brother playing Magic the Gathering. I interviewed the lady there. There were some others. The challenge there is finding a game store owner that's willing to open up. And when they're willing to open up, it's a wonderful information for all of us that love games. But it's they have to feel really safe doing it, and a lot of people don't feel safe around me, Dan, for whatever reason.
What do you mean they don't feel safe around me? Come on.
I'm just kidding. It's a joke, Dan.
Yeah. You think you could take me, Harold? Huh?
I don't. You've asked me that before. I don't know if that's a sexual reference or if it's exactly what it is. So it makes me really uncomfortable. I'm just going to tell you.
Okay, I'll never ask.
So the answer is I don't want to know, Dan.
Okay. Kabuki Kid asks, "What's your favorite game? What's your favorite game when you were a kid?" Actually, I'll ask them. Answer 2 questions. What's your favorite game, and what was your first game that got into conflict simulation? You like that?
That's good. That's good. Well, let me answer the Kabuki Kid's question first. Panzer Leader was probably my favorite game, and I loved Panzer Leader. I loved when you're a kid, and if you ever try to introduce a kid to wargaming, the NATO symbols don't mean a lot, but a tank or a guy with a machine gun, that means a lot, right? They understand that. So Panzer Leader was awesome for me, and I bought it in a department store by chance. Loved the box art, right? And that was my favorite. That game came with I guess it was a playbook. So it was a rule book and a playbook, and then that playbook, it just had each silhouette and it talked about the different tanks, and I would just read that for hours. And I know I never played the game right, but that was my favorite for sure.
Same thing with me. And I think when they show you the little silhouettes in the rule or playbook, they tell you how many men are in that little chit.
How many tanks, yeah.
And you know what? That's where my anxiety started. Because if I would send forward this squad of tanks and they got obliterated, I just lost 15,000 men.
Oops. Yeah.
Anyways, and I know Mo's going to say, it's only cardboard, Dan. Grow up. Yeah. Okay, hey, let's see here. Okay, we got Patrick Garrett, Harold. And in one of the recent podcasts, you mentioned that a student was doing an independent study using games and social issues. How have you included gaming into your scholarly work?
Well, first of all, Patrick, the great thing about doing what I do is I'm an adjunct. I have no research responsibilities at all, which is delightful. All I do is teach. That's all I'm there to do. I love to teach. I love the students. I get energy from them. I love to help them find jobs and learn to shake hands and do well in interviews and think about finance in their lives. So that's a joy to me. And that's now the other thing I did was probably 2 years ago, I executed a hostile takeover of the UCSD board game club. I called them and I said, hello, I see that you don't have a faculty advisor. I'd like to introduce you to me, your new faculty advisor. And I said, look, here's what I can do for you. But what you have to be willing to do is help me make this the biggest club on campus. Because at many other campuses, the board game club is the biggest club on campus. So I said, here's what I need from you. And what I'm willing to provide in exchange is a whole bunch of games, support. My crew goes to their game expos and sets up our games, right? The things that we like to play, and people can come look at them and play them, and we'll teach them. And tons of support, money to help them out, and they agreed to it. And so it's an exploding club right now. It's become very large, it's just fantastic. A young lady from that club asked me to do an independent study on games, and we talked about it a little bit, and she was interested in the social aspect of gaming and potentially using it to teach. So we're developing, she and I are meeting next week to develop the games that she's going to select. She's going to select 3 games that deal with social issues. She's going to play them with their friends, which will be interesting in today's environment. Perhaps interview the designers, and then write a paper on each one, and then a paper at the end to pull them all together. And if she allows me, I might even publish it on my website. But there's so many social issues that are covered in gaming. You think just simply about freedom from Academy Games and This Guilty Land from Hollandspiel. To games on, there's a game on consent. There are games on all sorts. There are all sorts of social issues covered in games, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what she selects. I don't know what it's going to be. We've talked a little bit about it, and that's what we'll set this next week.
So you have no say in what games are selected?
It's an independent study curriculum, so she should choose. But I'm not going to let her select like Azul, right? I mean, that's not the idea. The idea is, what's a game that helps us advance our discussion on social issues, right? And there are a host of social issues. For example, Dan, you and I don't know what it's like to be a minority in America or in North America. Oh. So there are games that help us think about that and see that for the first time, because our backgrounds keep us blind to it. There are issues on consent that you and I don't understand.
That's right.
That a game can help us think about. So I think that's the idea. And so she's going to select games in that vein. She's a very responsible, a wonderful student. So she's not going to half-ass this stuff. I expect her to keep me on my toes.
Now these social games, let's say like Freedom or the consent game you're talking about. Once you've learned or you felt a little bit how it is to be a minority, I guess those games will teach you that a little bit of a feeling like that.
Yeah, they'll give us just a touch, right? Just a touch.
But it would make me incredibly uncomfortable because
which is good, right? Which is good.
You think these are like one-shot games, like they've learned their lesson and they're not to be played again?
I don't know. I don't know that it will be interesting to go through this exercise with her, because I don't know that you play those games for the same reason that you and I play Panzer Blitz, right? I think you play them for different reasons. You play them to create conversations. Games are used for a lot of different reasons. Some people play them for fun. Some people play them to test hypotheses. Some people play them to convince someone else of their opinion or to awaken them. So, these social games have different goals than the games that you and I might play for fun.
Well, it's funny because when I was playing a conflict sim game, I think it was Rommel, something leader Rommel by DVG. And I asked a question on BGG. I sound like Kevin Sharp. They said, "Man, you like playing games with SS units?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? It's historically that this is what happened, and I'm playing the game." And this person went off on me because I was playing a game with SS units. So there's that in conflict simulations too. Hey, Harold,
yeah, absolutely. I was admiring a question from
Kabuki Kid.
Sean O'Keefe.
Who?
Sean O'Keefe says, "What does Mrs. Buchanan think of your gaming life, and do you manage to balance everything?" I'm not good at balancing anything, Sean. So that's an issue, and I'm obsessive on things, so I do everything way too much. That said, I stopped gaming when I went to college, and I started again when my kids started to move out of the house. So, I get a time dividend from all this soccer and other things that I used to go to, soccer, golf, and softball. So my experience now is that I would drive my wife nuts if I was in her business as much as I could be. And so we get along very well. We have time together, and then sometimes I do my game thing, and then sometimes she does her thing, and then we meet in the middle and do our thing together sometimes.
Are both of you gamers?
She plays simple games. We played backgammon the other night. She likes Azul and Catan, that kind of thing. So we play those games with the family.
What about Kabuki Kid asks, what about video games? Do you play them? Do you enjoy them? Do you have any current favorites?
Yeah, that was my respite. Video games was my respite between, kind of when I stopped in college and after college, and because you could pick up a video game and play it for 15 minutes and stop. So, I've heard you talk about Doom and Quake and those sorts of things. The Battlefield series is my favorite series by far. And Battlefield 1, I just love it. I love that game, which is World War I.
Play these on PC or on console?
I play them on PC, yeah.
Oh, you're not a console gamer?
No, I've never been a console gamer.
Okay, because I am, because I think there's too many keys on a PC.
It's like as many letters as in the alphabet.
Yeah, and it's difficult. It's difficult for me. I'm playing Fallout 4. I just love it, man. It's an RPG. It's post-apocalyptic, and you know what? It's a little bit like today almost. But anyways, let's not get into that. Let's get another question here. Okay. Nathaniel Robinson says he showed a commanding colors ancients to a general who taught at West Point. He said, "You set up the game, you represent the entire Roman social order." I don't know. I'm a bit lost on that.
Well, it may be a comment rather than a question.
Yeah, okay. Sorry.
That makes sense.
I guess. And the game I was talking about was Field Commander Rommel. Thanks, Kabuki. So, Harold, do you have any? Do we choose a winner? Do we have any parting words? Do we talk about what kind of beers you like? Because I'm personally all out of questions. We have 28 people watching, which I think is great.
Right.
Let's hear.
Well, I like the Kabuki Kids question. So I think I'm going to give him I think he's going to win the tank duel, Dan.
Kabuki Kid?
Yeah, Kabuki Kid does.
And what makes you think Kabuki Kid is male?
I don't. I guess I'm assuming, and I appreciate your social sensitivity to convert me.
That's what I'm learning off you, Harold. I'm trying to get a beard like you. I want to get glasses. I want to poke my eyes so I go blind a bit and wear glasses so I'm like you.
Well, you don't have to poke your eyes to wear glasses, first of all. Secondly, the hair is where we need to start.
Well, okay, so Kabuki gets that, okay? So
yeah, Kabuki needs to communicate with, if he'll send his address to you or me, then we'll get him a copy of Tank Duel once things are cooled down. And then you're going to select at random 2 participants, 2 people that commented, and Roger will get him a couple of those cool shirts. Okay,
do we do this live now?
It's your show, Dan. I'm just here for the free beer.
Yeah, I actually, you know what? I stopped drinking beer, Harold, and I lost 20 pounds. Maybe wow. It doesn't show, but I lost 20 pounds because I like beer.
Yeah, it shows. You look great. You look fantastic.
Thanks, man. I was going to ask you a question, but I won't. You know what? Man, this is difficult.
Well, you can do it. You can do it afterwards, right?
I'll do it afterwards, and yeah, I'll do it. I'll take down their names and just do something like that.
And you'll contact them, and then if you can get me the addresses, we'll get those to Roger.
Absolutely, I'll do that. So,
a lot of good questions, man. I was impressed. A lot of activity here in the chat, much more than when you interviewed Volko.
I love that. That's great. Oh man. Oh no. Okay. You know, here you go. Look, you see this guy, Trevor Just? I can't wait to meet him. I'm gonna kick him right in the cannolis. Yeah. I don't know. Like, what's the matter with this guy? He doesn't know me. And look, you see his picture there? He's puffing out his chest, this and that. My Trevor, wait till I see you. I swear, man. Anyways, whatever. So that's it, Harold. Is this it? That you're leaving me now?
Dan, it's your show. I'm here. I arranged 6 hours for tonight. So if you want to cut it in an hour, that's fine.
You know what? Mark Herman did something that I thought was genius when I first met him. I said, Mark, I'd like to ask you a few questions. He goes, just turn it on. We're just going to talk. So you know what, Harold? Let's drop our pens. By the way, this is a fountain pen. I'm a fountain pen guy. Are you a fountain pen guy?
No, I don't. I thought I was until I showed you, and you said, it's Harold, that's not a fountain pen. That's a cartridge pen.
What's that?
This?
Yeah.
This is my favorite pen. It's one of these things.
Oh my God! Yeah, but you're a well-to-do man. You're like a Renaissance guy. You have to walk around with not a bloody fight. It's not bad. Not bad. So you're in. Okay, the beer. I asked Volko this. Volko likes beer. Are you a beer guy too?
Volko's is in all things Volko. He's a very sophisticated consumer of stuff. I like light Mexican beers. I like, I'll take a good Pacifico or a Corona with a piece of fruit in it, and I'm ecstatic.
I don't know what to say.
You don't have to say anything. It's just truth. I'm just giving you facts.
Yeah, but
you have to accept it.
Those are some sad facts, Harold. I didn't expect you to be a peewee beer drinker, man.
Yeah.
You don't like robust beers, like it's like a meal, like you're eating a loaf of bread or something. No, huh?
No, I would rather have a loaf of bread, frankly.
Yeah. Maybe it's that California air, man. It's too light. You know what I'm saying? And San Diego, I'm assuming you live in San Diego.
Yes.
How is San Diego? I've never been there. Is it a lot of lightheaded people there, or
yeah, I don't know. I was never a fan of California as I grew up, and I lived in Texas once I started to work. And then I came out here and visited San Diego once, and it's the weather here is unbelievable. It's like around 70 degrees all the time. It's sunny most of the time. It rains less than 10 inches. It's a desert, and it has the ocean, and it's just magnificent in that regard. It's an interesting place. It's a well-educated city. It's got a lot of interesting technology-oriented businesses. It's cool. At the same time, there's a great deal of diversity because we're right on the border, and so all the great benefits that come from a border city in the United States. So it's a cool place. I like it. California is an odd state for so many reasons, but it's also the pluses outweigh the minuses in my mind.
Now, when you said it's a very diverse place, San Diego, have you been to Montreal? Does it compare in diversity?
LA probably is more that sort of diversity, right? Kind of a central point. People come to LA before they come to San Diego when they enter the country, just like they come to Houston or New York, maybe Chicago. Are you putting your pen in your nose, Dan? Because I'm just curious. So it's so it probably isn't as wonderful in that regard as Montreal, but I would compare that to a Houston or a New York City or a Los Angeles.
San Diego, you're saying?
No, I would do Montreal.
Really? Because I've never been to Houston. I've never been to, what's the other place you called it? New York? Yeah, I've been to New York City. Yeah. I had a concert. Some people performed my music, which was very nice in Ithaca, and I was taken aback at how not diverse Ithaca was.
Sure.
Like it freaked me out. I felt very uncomfortable because here in Montreal, there's all kinds of people, and it's like it's just Montreal. It's what it is. Right. And when that was missing, it made me uncomfortable. It really, really made me uncomfortable. So I'm in San Diego.
Yeah, no, I don't think you'd be uncomfortable in that regard in San Diego. It may be a different series of complexions here, but we're a part of the Pacific Rim. There's a massive naval presence here, and so they're people from all over. And like I said, we're a border town. So.
And what's is it more of a financial type town, San Diego?
It's the business is more technology oriented. So there's a lot of technology here. It's not a massive city. It's not like San Francisco in technology, but there's a lot of technology and a lot of biotech. The genome was sequenced here, and there's just a lot of biotech technology oriented companies here.
Now let me ask you a personal question. You got into finance. Was that the first thing you did? Like, was that out of high school? You went and you studied finance?
Yeah, I majored in math and finance in undergrad, and then I went to work at Accenture, which is a consulting firm. Worked there for 5 years, and then I went to work and started in trading in a big energy trading company.
Now it's funny, Harold, because you have a sense of humor, and you're a musician too, because you showed me you played some guitar before, and actually that was pretty good, man. And you don't. I keep thinking of financial people as dry people, and you're not dry at all. So
Warren Buffett and I are on the cutting edge of personality.
Now, did you go chasing the dollar, or was there a real interest in? Is there an art to this? Is it fun? It sounds like
it's fun, but it's all brutal negotiation and watching your back. It's about chasing the dollar. It's about just believing in that capitalist thing, that if you can if you work hard and you kick butt, you'll be successful. And finance provides that opportunity for people that want to do it that way.
I guess. I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean,
it's hard. I mean, there's huge sacrifices. I made huge sacrifices in college. I made huge sacrifices in work for years and years and years, massive amounts of time, and
you're talking about
sacrifices in graduate school. What's that?
Talking about studying and
yeah, just you take it serious and you work and you get to know it, and that's what sets you apart. That's what capitalism rewards. That capitalism doesn't say that you work 8 hours a day and you have a nice balance that you're going to be wealthy. That's not part of the capitalist model. I don't know if that's fair or not, but
no, I don't know, man. I don't know. There's who you know also that helps you along the way. Sure, you could be good, but
Dan, my parents didn't go to college, man.
Okay.
Yeah, one was from Kentucky and one was from West Virginia. My dad didn't finish high school. So, I wasn't born into anything. And it would be nice, right? It would be nice if I knew a bunch of people coming out.
Well, no, I'm not.
But I didn't know. But I didn't. Yeah. See, the who you know stuff.
Well,
it doesn't keep you from doing stuff. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know how to go to college. I didn't know what to do, and my parents didn't either. I had no idea. Well, so there's nobody I knew. I had to develop that over time myself.
No, I didn't mean it that way, Harold.
I don't take it as a criticism. I just say that when people say it's who you know,
well,
I'm a good example of it doesn't matter who you know.
Okay, well, I was personalizing that question because as a professional musician, I was a musician for 30. I mean, I still am, but I was a professional musician for 30 years, yeah. And not to toot my own horn, but on my instrument, I'm actually the first North American graduate on my instrument.
Oh, that's cool.
With a master's degree. Okay.
Right.
So I thought, man, hey, and the amount of work I put into it, Harold, I used to practice 10, 12, 15 hours a day, man. I used to practice, okay, for a long time. Now, when I say influence, I mean, and one guy in the States, man, shot down my name, and because he was a man of influence, I didn't get any gigs in the States anymore.
Yeah.
So that's what I meant. I mean,
Well, I think that art is different than finance, right? Than starting a business, operating a business, being involved in trading, investing, all that stuff is different than art. And art is a weird thing because you see talented artists all the time,
yeah,
that don't get their fair shot.
That's right.
But in business, it doesn't matter. I'm trading against everybody. It's the best ideas that come to the top.
Really? I never thought of it that way. So if I would have put 15 hours, 12-hour days for years, me and Warren Buffett would have been like this, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There'll be no Charlie Munger. It'll be Dan Pencaldi and Warren Buffett.
And it's funny. There's a gamer, I think you know him, a designer called Reiner Knizia.
Yes.
And I don't know if I spoke to you about this, but he used to be a bank something. He used to work in a bank, but a highfalutin bank job. Do you know that?
I'm not sure what that title is, highfalutin, but
I'm an artist, man. I ornament stuff. You know what I'm saying? So he was not just like a manager of a branch. He was really, I forget. I'm supposed to interview Reiner, but I guess he's a busy guy. And I even forgot what the hell I was going to say.
Well, he's become a very successful game designer, putting in a lot of effort and time, right? I don't know that he gets rich. This isn't an industry you pick if you want to get rich.
Well, the reason why he started just doing game design, I'm assuming, is because he's got a nice fat in the bank he can live off of, and I'm sure he's an investor also. I don't know. I'm just saying. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, your guitar, your Martin guitar. First of all, how do you know Martin? I'm curious. Like,
I've been playing guitar for fun for years since I was a kid, and my grandfather got me turned on to it. And for a long time, my parents got me a nice guitar at one point as I was a teenager, but I always dreamed about all the guitars I'd like to have, and then when I finally got the money to get them, I have them and they sit in the closet because I don't have time to play them.
Oh man, that's sad.
The Martin D5 is a guilty pleasure. I love that thing.
That's a beautiful guitar, and you know what? Just from the microphone you had there, I can tell the sound. Okay, so it's what do you call the fat bodies?
It's not. It's a D5, so it's handmade, but it's.
And where are they made, Marcus? They're made in the States.
Yeah, by Americans for Americans.
Oh, excuse me. I mean, have you ever heard of Godin guitars?
No.
Ah, okay, thank you. You've heard of Pat Metheny?
Yes.
Okay, well, he plays Godin.
I'm sure they're good.
Made like half an hour away from my house. So Kabuki says she plays guitar too. And did you ever take any lessons, or you're self-taught?
Mostly self-taught. Every generation in my family has one kid that can play music. My mom was the first. I was the next. It's really a very odd thing, but every generation has one person that has a musical gift.
Yeah, and being American, why didn't you pick up the banjo?
I'm going to take offense to that. That's hurtful.
I love the banjo, man. Bella Fleck.
You keep talking about your instrument. What's your instrument? I imagine it's bagpipes or something.
Oh, no. My what I majored on was percussion, and I went even more. I bullseyed on an instrument called the marimba.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That's delightful when you're in the Caribbean.
Say what?
It's a Caribbean thing, right? The marimba.
No, it's actually it's a Guatemalan thing.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah, but I'm a multi-instrumentalist, so I play guitar, piano, whatever the band needed, I played. You know,
that's pretty cool.
Not well, but I played it. I also play an instrument that's interesting, and it's made in California. I don't know where in California, but it's called the Chapman stick. And here, let me show you. All right, let me show you.
Yeah. The Chapman stick.
Yeah.
Spoons. Oh. Oh, that's pretty cool. So it looks like it's not finished.
No, it's finished. It's a tapping instrument. You.
Oh, that's great.
But it's you can't hear it because it's not plugged in.
So it's an electric Chapman stick?
Yeah, and it's synthesized. It's got a synthesizer.
Oh, that's good.
And yeah, and what kind of music are you into, man, Harold?
I like classic rock. I also like jazz.
When you say classic rock, can you expand, please?
Yeah, classic rock is Led Zeppelin, so no need to ask. But yeah, I like a lot of stuff. I like Rush, AC/DC. All that stuff just appeals to my inner whatever it is, child.
Yeah, I'm the same.
I love that stuff.
Jazz artists. Who's your jazz guy?
Let's see. So all the great saxophonists. Shoot.
John Coltrane.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about. All right, I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna search the internet real quick.
It happens, as time goes by.
I thought we were going to talk about Horace Silver. So I love Horace Silver, and I can't, for whatever reason, can't think of him, but I love his stuff. Of course, pianist.
Yeah.
Herbie Hancock, who.
It's a Thelonious Monk. I couldn't. Yeah. When the first time I heard Thelonious Monk, I was like, "Is this guy for real?" Because it sounds like he's just hammering everything, but he resolves everything.
If you sit and listen and pay attention, it's a beautiful thing.
It's incredible. And what about the classical music, man?
Yeah, I enjoy classical music. I can't say that I know a lot about it, but I enjoy it. I find it soothing. Baroque, I find soothing. Yeah.
When I say classical music, I'm generalizing, because classical is just a period in time in music. There's Baroque, there's Renaissance, there's medieval, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. You're not a contemporary. You're not a Stravinsky fan,
No, I enjoy listening to Baroque in the background.
Oh my
And there's evidence to say that it makes you a little bit smarter, right? If you study with Baroque music in the background. But the thing that worries me is if there's music that makes you smarter, there's also music that makes you dumber.
yeah.
So I'll leave that to your own definitions to find that type of music.
Oh, I know it. I've listened to the dumb music.
The chamber stick might produce some, or whatever that was. What was that? The Clark stick?
Just call it the stick.
The stick.
Oh, you wouldn't believe what that sounds like, man. I mean, you get blown away.
You should do a show just playing that stick for about an hour. I'd listen. I'd watch the whole thing.
It's so boring. It's not even funny. And you know, I stopped performing actually because once I was a solo performer and I'm playing and I was bored with myself. And I quit on the spot on stage. I said, this is my last performance. I don't feel it. If I don't feel it, how can I give you any music? There's no music coming out. And I quit that day. Bam, it's over. So I went into competition. But I don't know why I'm saying that. Anyways.
Well, that's too bad. That's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that.
What are you sorry to hear that for?
Well, because if it's something that brought you joy and suddenly it didn't bring you joy anymore,
but there's a lot of things that bring joy. You bring me joy, Harold.
Oh, thank you.
You know?
Yeah.
There's joy when I look forward to your podcasts. I can't wait to hear the Bruce Garrick one because that guy's what do you?
He's a pill.
He's a tough guy.
No, I don't know that he's a tough guy. He's a smart guy.
He's a smart guy. Why is he smart?
I don't know why he's smart. I'm not sure how it happened, but he is smart.
And is he lippy?
Yeah, a little bit, but that makes it fun.
He's lippy, yeah?
Yeah, you'll enjoy the podcast because there are quite a few exchanges of lippy on both parts.
I try to talk to him. I get intimidated when I talk to Bruce.
Well, he's a very kind guy. He's not mean. I don't think he would be mean. Deep Purple, yes. Doors, yes. Beatles, yes. John Williams, that's a tough one.
Trevor, yes. Struns and Farah. I used to get into Struns and Farah a while ago, as a matter of fact. My sister was a big fan. She was supposed to be on the show. She was supposed to say something so I could say, hey, that's my sister. But
sure.
She didn't say nothing. She didn't do nothing.
I had my wife in here. You should have your wife come in or girlfriend or whatever it is. Yeah.
She should get. You know, when I say something, hey, Chantal, you want to play a game?
Crickets.
I wanted to play Aeon's End. Have you ever played that game?
Pardon me?
Aeon's End.
No, I've never played
it. It's a legacy game that they just put out. And it's a deck building game, and you learn new stuff as you go on. And we're home, man, because of the coronavirus. And she didn't want to play a game. Nobody wants.
You're home now because of the coronavirus?
I've been home for a year. But yeah, we're all home. Everybody's home also, you guys, because of the coronavirus.
I know. I'm joking, Dan.
Oh, bloody hell. See? You see? I'm gullible like that, man.
He kids.
And Matt Chestnut, I could have been the next Cab Calloway.
So what if, I think that's an idea. And what if you connected a cymbal to one foot and a bass drum to another foot, and then you had your stick, whatever. Does that take two hands?
Stick could be played with one hand.
And then you could play a keyboard with the other. And then you could use your head for some sort of iteration.
Oh man, I think we're getting loopy here. Well, Harold, it's been an hour and a half. I know you like half-an-hour shows. I'm sorry I kept you on so long.
Dan, it was a pleasure. I enjoyed talking to you. It was good fun.
Thanks for being on. And so Kabuki Kid gets the bloody game, eh?
Yes, Kabuki Kid is the winner. Harmonica for the mouth. That's it. Kabuki Kid reinforces the win with the harmonica comment. Okay,
so I'm gonna pick a name from a hat from there, and from my side, someone's gonna get a Yeah magazine, the latest one, the Battle of Huey. Battle of Way. Come on, man. What's the matter with you guys?
You're a jokester.
Harold, thank you very much. People, thank you very much for listening. And Harold, stick around. Guys, you're going to have to watch my intro. It's a beautiful one. Harold.
Thanks, Dan.